Just how much performance do you actually lose with an old wedge as opposed to a brand spanking new one? Let's find out, and let's do it now. This could be a big difference. Hi everyone, James Robinson here. If you're new to the channel and this is your first time watching my content, first of all, welcome to the channel. Second of all, please take a second to hit that subscribe button before you leave. That way you won't miss any of the great golf related content that I bring to you guys every single day. In this video, I am testing my, I'm gonna call it old now. I've had this about 8 months and it's probably had a good year's worth of usage as opposed to a standard person who doesn't play golf that much. This thing's been all over the world. I've used it probably every day for the last 8 months, as opposed to a brand spanking new vokey wedge in exactly the same specs, albeit just a slightly different finish. Now, first things first, there's one thing we have to do. Don't you just love it? Oh yeah. So guys, just before we start, I want you to be a part of this video and I want you to hit those comments below. How much difference do you think we're going to see in spin rate? That's the main number we're going to look at here. I want to see just how worn out these grooves have gotten over the best part of a year's worth of golf as opposed to a brand new wedge. And remember, we're talking pretty much identical specs, so nothing should change there. Let's start with some 50-yard shots. Or 60-yard shots. I'm going to try and play these shots exactly the same, so I'm going to play them square faced. I'm going to get my left arm parallel to the ground. From there I'm just going to make a nice turn through and try and hit it about 50 yards. I'm going to hit loads of shots with both, so I may not show them all, but we will take a look at the averages and see just what happens to the spin rate and maybe even the launch angle. Once we're done with these short shots, I'm going to hit some full shots to around 100, 110 yards and see the difference there too. Also guys, hit those comments below. How often do you change your wedges? Do you change them every year? Do you change them every couple of years? Do you wait for the latest vokey wedge to come out and then change them because there's a new wedge out? Now that's 10 50-yard shots hit with my trusty old vokey wedge. Now I'm going to move into the new wedge, then I'm going to go back to the old wedge, then back into the new wedge. I'm going to hit 20 shots with each to try and get as fair a test as I can. Obviously, I'm well aware if you wanted to get this test absolutely fair, absolutely accurate, completely to the letter by the law, you would have to have a robot doing this, but I'm not a robot and this is a YouTube channel, not NASA, so I'll carry on. It's got to be said, how good does this thing look? Can you beat a brand new, fresh vokey wedge? I don't think so. I should probably say the specs of these wedges, they are both 56 degree vokey wedges, they're both in S-grind and they both have 10 degrees of bounce. And they're also both SM7. If that shot's anything to go by, this could be a big difference. Now, I was lucky enough to spend some time with the guys at Titleist HQ a couple of weeks ago, and my dad asked the best question I think I've ever heard anyone ask. The answer, most tour pros will replace the wedges every third or fourth tournament, or if it's a sand wedge or a lob wedge where you're hitting a lot of shots out of sand, you're practicing out a lot of bunkers, they might even change it every tournament or every 2 weeks. I mean, that'd be a nice option to have, wouldn't it? So guys, I've hit 10 shots with each vokey wedge there, 10 with the old one, 10 with the brand spanking new one. I'm now going to hit 10 more with each on this 50-yard shot. Don't worry, I'm going to fast forward it. You don't need to see every shot. Then we're going to move into a 100-yard shot and see what the differences are there. Oh, 50 on the nose. This is a decent way to practice your wedge distances. Whew, it's getting warm in here now. Let's go back to the new wedge. We all know what's going to happen next time I go and play golf, don't we? I'm going to have that 50-yard shot. I'm probably going to duff it in front of me after hitting some absolute beauties in this test. 2 more, then let's take a look. Now interestingly there, that is 20 shots hit with each wedge to about 50 yards. I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I'm gonna be far away from that distance on average over the 40 shots. But the new wedge definitely seemed to feel a touch softer, a tiny bit softer, not a lot, but just enough to notice. Remember, I've been using this old wedge for a long time now, and I know exactly how it feels. Maybe the newer wedges are just cushioning it a little bit more and allowing that softer feel. But that's not really what matters, is it? Let's take a look at just what you gain from replacing an old wedge with a brand new one. So this is the first time I've looked at these numbers. Let's put them all in. New vokey, old vokey. Look at that. Bang on 50 yards with the old vokey and 53 yards with the new vokey. Now, I can't do a fairer test than that. Really can't. Panning over to the spin rate, what we all want to see. Old vokey 5,389 on average, new vokey 6,084 on average. That is a bigger difference than I anticipated, albeit the new vokey did go 3 yards further, so there'll be a tiny bit more speed in there. But we're talking fractions here, we're talking 3 yards. And there was a 600 RPM difference there between the new vokey and the old vokey. That is going to be noticeable when you're sending shots into greens. Remember, we're only talking over 50 yards here. Now let's have a look at 100 yards, maybe 110, and see how much difference we see there. Guys, hit those comments below. What are we expecting to see from this? I can't believe that. Okay guys, so I'm going to try and get these as close to 100 yards as I can. It's going to be give or take because obviously over 40 shots, I can't imagine I'm going to be that good. Never know. But I tell you what, that'll work. Brand new vokey wedges, shelling Pro V1s since the early 90s. Definitely think it might be time for some new wedges, you know. So I think we've definitely seen enough with the brand new vokey wedge. Let's get the old faithful back in and let's see just how much difference there is over 100 yards. Ish. Now we feel back at home. Sorry what I said earlier. So come on guys, what's everyone expecting to see over 100 yards? I still can't quite believe there was that big a difference over 50 yards with 40 shots. Technically, should the difference double? If the difference does double, then that means we're going to see a difference of over 1,000 RPM spin, which would, to be honest, be a little bit ridiculous to say that. Remember, this wedge, although I'm calling it the old wedge, it is still only really 8-9 months old, and I know it's had a lot of use. It's probably had a good year's use in any normal golfer's bag, but that's a huge difference. However, we are jumping the gun because we've not seen it yet. Now, a really interesting fact here is when I absolutely ripped one with the brand new vokey wedge, there was loads of ball residue on the face. There was practically half a Pro V1X just sat in those grooves, whereas with the old wedge, yeah, you get a little bit, but not a lot. Now that must obviously mean that the club isn't gripping the ball as much, right? Tell you what, we're not going to be far away from 100 yards again on these shots. So that's it. I've hit loads of shots over 100 yards with a brand new vokey wedge and my old trusty vokey wedge in exactly the same specs. What are we expecting to see? Because over 50 yards, I wasn't expecting to see that much, and to be honest, I was very surprised with how much difference that we saw. Let's take a look over 100 yards. So again, this is the first time I've seen these numbers. View all results. Now then. Exactly the same. Come on. Oh. Spin rate. Very, very similar. Very, very similar. But actually over 100 yards, the old vokey has taken it. Ball speed's exactly the same. Club head speed actually higher on the new wedge. But the old vokey takes it. And now you see, that's probably surprised me even more. And I wasn't expecting to stand here and tell you that the old vokey gets more spin over 100 yards than the new vokey. Obviously some of that is down to technique, some of that is down to how I've struck the shots, but in all fairness, looking at those numbers, club head speed very, very similar, ball speed exactly the same, distances exactly the same. So it just goes to show that maybe over 100 yard, over full shots, you don't see that big difference. But I think what this video does show is that shorter shots, maybe around the green from 50 yards, 60 yards and in, you do see a little bit more performance with new grooves than with old ones. For me, that's been really, really interesting. It just goes to show that you have to test these things to see exactly what happens. I'm sure if I did this test on a different day, maybe the outcome would be slightly different, but I really don't think that I could have done that test any fairer. I've hit loads of golf shots. I'm red hot now. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed that. Make sure you hit those comments below. Let me know, how often do you change your wedges? Are you surprised with those results? Were you expecting to see a bigger difference over full shots? I know I was, especially seeing the ball residue on both the faces. Guys, thanks again for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Leave a like if you enjoyed that video, and as always, I'll see you tomorrow.
I need you more.